online repositories which are being created, or web-based repositories which are being created, they are termed as digital libraries, right? The digital library, when we understand, then it is an online database of digital objects that can include text, images, audio, video, digital documents, or other digital media formats, right? So when we can store, or if we store all these things in an online databases, and then it is being utilized in remote areas, so delivery of content can be made easy. Just like MOOC we have created, or OER, the open educational resources we have created, or massive open online courses, that's what we have seen with NPTEL, where they can store their video, they can shoot and store their videos online, and such online deliveries can be accessed anywhere using the web-based tools. That becomes a digital library also, right? When we have large array or large assets of education which are being created, properly segregated, properly labeled, and then being placed on a web-based tool which can be accessed from the remote locations, or from anywhere in India, or from anywhere across the geography, then it becomes the use of digital education also, right? So it becomes the use of digital library as well, right? The objects can consist of digitalized content like print or photograph, originally produced digital content, etc., right? Digital libraries provide a means of storage, organizing, searching, and retrieving the content contained in the collection, right? So that's how it is being sorted properly also. There is storage, there is organization of it, there could be a search which can be provided, and then there could be retrieval of it. We can download it also from the digital libraries. The digital libraries can vary immensely, can vary immensely in size and scope, because how they are to be utilized, where they are to be utilized, this will all depend upon the nature of the library, or the overall characteristics of the library would also depend upon what is the basic use of this particular library. The digital content may be stored locally or accessed remotely via computer network, of course, right? These information retrieval systems are able to exchange information with each other through interoperability and sustainability. So there is a constancy in the type of resources which are being provided, right? If you look up to the major physical features of the digital library, then there is no physical boundary which is being created. It can be accessed anywhere by anyone, right? Round the clock availability of the content can be made available. It would be 24/7 that the digital libraries can remain available, right? They are available 24/7 all across the country. Multiple access at a time, many users can access content, right? Information retrieval, of course, we can download the information easily, right? Preservation and conservation of the data, because this remains the electronic data, so it can remain preserved or conserved also for long time, right? There would not be any loss of this particular data, right? Space minimization can be taken up. Added values can be created because it can remain more scalable. It can be or many users can be brought into this. Users from different geographical locations can be hosted over this particular platform, digital library. So added value, it is easily accessible. It allows effective and automated semantic classification and searching also. If we can introduce machines over here or computers over here, or even we can introduce robots over here which can help to sort the educational content, then this would become an automated classification and searching of the content which can be made available, right? It can help in digital preservation of the data, right? Copywriting and licensing can also be higher. We can copyright the content, we can place the content, we can control the content, because certainly digital libraries would be mostly controlled, or it would be, the control would be centralized, the distribution would be decentralized. So when control is centralized, the management of the digital libraries would be far more easier, right? For a larger scale utilization also. Digital libraries can also remain connected with over a cloud based service which can be provided. Over here, the cloud computing or the cloud based storage comes into play, where we can have a large scale backend data storage, or a digital library is being created at the backend, and then we can have a cloud infrastructure which is being created, and then we can have softwares or applications which are being provided for the end user using these apps itself or using various web-based resources also. There could be apps or there could be web resources which are being created. Using these web resources, the content can be accessed. The content can be placed over here in this digital library. That's how it helps in electronic dissemination of various different forms of the digital content to the remote and inaccessible areas also. That's why they remain one of the important tool in distance education. Right. There are various examples of digital libraries that we can speak of. The first example, National Digital Library of India, NDLI, which is the project of Ministry of Human Resources, MHRD, right, which is now Ministry of Education. Right, and the objective is to collect and collate metadata and provide full text index from several national and international digital libraries. It helps to connect with all different digital libraries or libraries which host content, index all the content, and then present it to the end user. Right. The digital it is a digital repository containing textbooks, articles, videos, audiobooks, lectures, simulation, fiction, and all other kinds of the learning media which can be made available. Right. It provides free of cost access to many books in the Indian languages, also in the English also. Right. So the books or the repository of various different types of the books, and then creates, then sorts the book also, or sort the index of the book, place the books according to their, we can say, according to their headers or according to their heading. The books can be placed and they can be accessed. Right. The second one is the Digital Library of India. One is National Digital Library, another one is the Digital Library of India. It is the part of online services which is being provided by Indian Institute of Sciences, Bangalore, in partner with the Million Book Project. It provides free access to many books in English and Indian language. The target is same, just the nature of these two are different. The scanning of Indian language book has also created a particular, using this, or for this particular digital library, there was scanning of the Indian content or the Indian languages, and based on which the Indian language based OCR, right, optical character recognition software is also being created, which can easily predict the Indian content or the Indian language also by IISc, Bangalore. Right, opportunity of developing Indian language optical character recognition. The publication are many, mainly in PDF or QuickTime format, etc., which can be made available. Then there is National Science Digital Library. National Science Digital Library, NSDL. This remains as an initiative of CSIR. Right, objective is to scan and store books relative to science, technology, and engineering. This is also an open access platform, and content is easily sorted. There could be a search which can be generated for the content which is being placed over National Science Digital Library. So National Science Digital Library, which is being hosted with CSIR Institute, NISCARE, right? And that is also one example of the digital libraries which are being established in India. Now, one of the most important digital library that we have in India is the Traditional Knowledge Digital Library. Traditional Knowledge Digital Library is a web-based repository which is being created to store the knowledge related to traditional medicine, in fact, in India. Right? There are multiple practices, there are multiple uses of the traditional resources of biodiversity in the country. Right? Like, for example, if you look up to then the medicines which have been utilized in Ayurveda, Unani, Siddha, homeopathy, even yoga, these are all the traditional values of the Indian medicine system. Right? Now, there are multiple formulations which are being created. There are multiple uses of different types of the biodiverse resources which are being present, right? And now, if we understand the basic worth of biodiversity, the product development and the commercialization of the products which are being extracted from the rich biodiversity knowledge can create a kind of industry or a global industry of millions or trillions of the dollars, right? And that's how the countries or companies, they are constantly in search of such type of formulation, any kind of the formulation, any type of the data relative to it, any type of the utility relative to the biodiversity and biodiversity resources, if it is being known, can be extracted and can be utilized, and a large scale product can be created. And that's what happened in 1999, right? In US or by US FDA or in the US FDA, there was one patent which was registered, and that patent was registered for turmeric and its use in wound healing. And that happened eventually. Eventually, turmeric has been constantly used in India, and it has been used for various purposes, and one of the purposes also wound healing. It has been traditionally used. Now, if that patent was given to a particular company, then this would have defeated the overall use, or this would have created a particular pattern that any use of turmeric in India for wound healing or any other purpose would have then be a violation of the patent in that case. Also, since India was using turmeric for very long, it was the traditional worth or the traditional medicine property of the country itself. So we started challenging this thing. We challenged this, that it has been constantly used, and there were multiple reports which were being presented, and there were multiple texts which were being presented which belong to 12th century AD or 14th century AD, or even much more, much before than that also. And it has been elaborately defined that the role of turmeric in various medicines, that not only be wound healing, but as an antibiotic, as an anti-cancer agent, as many other forms also, it has been constantly and traditionally been used. So this is our traditional knowledge, and this is the or if a particular patent is being created, that would be the loss of our intellectual property, the intellectual property which is being generated from the traditional formulations. So ultimately that was defeated. And similar case also came with neem, similar case also came with basmati rice, and we fought for it. We won though, but then there was a need which was created, and the need was that if there are certain traditional formulations which are present in Indian text, which are present in Indian language, then they must be brought up front. There must be a repository of all these different types of the content which stores the traditional knowledge, or the knowledge relative to traditional practices in Ayurveda, homeopathy, Unani, Siddha, Yoga, or any other formulation which is being created in Indian medicine. Then that must be brought forward and must be kept as a web repository, so that if any form of content, if any form of patent is being applied, which somewhere down the track is relative to use of biodiversity, right? If it is being applied upon, then the patent office can look up to, can search for the use of that particular biodiverse resource, in whether it has a particular use in Indian traditional medicine, or had a use in Indian traditional medicine, or whether it would violate any form of the Indian traditional medicine related intellectual property. If not, then only the patent can be granted. If there is a particular use of it in India, if there is a particular formulation of any particular biodiversity resource based use in India, then that patent would immediately be dissolved and it would not be granted. Right? For the same purpose, the traditional knowledge digital libraries are being created, which act as the repository of the content relative to the formulations and practices in traditional medicine in India. Right? The overall traditional knowledge digital library, it is an Indian digital knowledge repository for the traditional knowledge, especially about medicinal plants and formulations, right, in the Indian system of medicine. It was set up in 2001, right, with a collaboration of CSIR and Ministry of Ayush. These two, they have created the overall, they have established this particular traditional knowledge digital library. Objective is to protect the ancient and the traditional knowledge of the country from exploitation through biopiracy and unethical patents by documenting it electronically and classifying as per the International Patent Classification System, right? So the information can be brought, can be made electronic, and then there could be electronic repository of that particular information relative to the traditional knowledge of the Indian medicines, right? The non-patent database serves to foster modern research based on traditional knowledge, and it simplifies the access to this vast knowledge of remedies and practices, etc. Basically, in traditional knowledge digital library, it contains the digitalized information from Indian system of medicine of Ayurveda, Unani, Siddha, Sova, Rigva and Yoga, right? Which is compiled from different existing literatures which are written in local languages. Now this also becomes a particular problem, because since the formulations are written in local languages, they are not known to the global community. So if a particular patent is being created by mistake, or if someone has opted for a patent for a particular use of biodiversity resources, then they might not have known this particular fact that it has been utilized in traditional medicine in India, because the content was not available in their local languages, in their understandable language. It was available in our local language. So we brought all these content together, which was in Sanskrit, Urdu, Arabic, Persian and Tamil. It has all been brought in, and then it's been translated to German, Spanish, French, Japanese and English, 5 international languages. All the content in local language has been brought in, their content is being translated into 5 international languages, and then is being kept, right, by creating a traditional knowledge resource classification. The traditional knowledge resource classification remains as the major web repository. It is the structured classification system of about 3.6 lakh formulations, 3.6 lakh, which is huge, right, formulations and practices, and into about 5,000 subgroups, right? All the formulations are being divided, Ayurveda based, Unani based, this based, that based, right, funguses, plants, mushrooms, etc., etc. In this way the classification is being created, right? The information is structured under the section, class, subclass, group and subgroup as per the International Patent Classification, and the information is now being brought into in the same classification. Each text is read, medicinal formulation practices identified and converted into a structured language using traditional knowledge resource classification, which is traditional knowledge resource classification method, right? It is the knowledge based conversation where data abstracted once converted into several languages by using Unicode, metadata, methodology. Traditional terminology is also converted into modern terminology. All of this is being created in the traditional knowledge resource classification. All the data has been kept. Now once the data has been kept, every time this particular data or the traditional knowledge resource classification based data is now being given access to 13 different patent organizations or the patent offices all across the globe. Anywhere if a particular patent is being applied, which includes any use of the biodiversity or such type of the biodiversity, that may be an Indian biodiversity or any other case also, that is then checked by the examiner, the patent examiner, over the TKDL or the over the traditional knowledge resource classification points, web resources. If there is no matching over TKRC or over TKDL, then only the patent is being granted. If there is a matching of it, then immediately the patent of a particular thing relative to that would be dissolved. It would immediately be terminated, right? This in way will help to protect the intellectual property rights of traditional medicine and formulations in India, right? That's how TKDL are one of the major instruments which are being utilized in preserving the intellectual property rights of traditional medicine or traditional knowledge in India, right? This has been asked how India helps or India can control its traditional knowledge resources, or how India maintains the privacy of traditional knowledge resources, or what are TKDL and what are their uses. This has already been asked in UPSC Civil Services earlier, right? So if we look up to this, then the TKDL has an access to European Patent Office, United States Patent Office, Japanese Patent Office, UK, Canada, Germany, Australia, Indian Patent Office, and the Patent Office of Chile, Intellectual Property Rights Corporation of Malaysia, Russia, Peru, Spanish patent office. So almost all of the important patent offices, they are being connected to TKDL. If any particular thing is to be accessed, then it has been, the direct connectivity is being given to patent examinees in these offices. They can check before granting any type of the patent. The advantage is it acts as a bridge between formulation existing in local languages and a patent examiner at the global level, which was because that is itself one of the major problem. TKDL is providing or is proving to be an effective deterrent against biopiracy. Of course, biopiracy where the biological resource or biodiversity related we can say knowledge of a particular country or of a particular party is being utilized and is being patented, right, inappropriately by any particular organization, and the values or the overall benefits occurring from biodiversity are not being shared, right. So for this, the Cartagena Protocol and Nagoya Protocol is also being created for the Cartagena Protocol for biosafety to reduce biopiracy. As far as the Indian traditional knowledge is being considered, we can reduce the biopiracy of the traditional knowledges or formulation using TKDL itself, right. But there are certain problems also. TKDL has a benchmark of TK protection, traditional knowledge protection around the world, particularly traditional knowledge rich countries. They can utilize this as the major demonstration of how to control the privacy of the traditional knowledge. That's how the traditional knowledge digital libraries, they act as one of the major tool